and welcome to Coffee with Carrie. I saw something in my Google feed this week about Hugh Jackman and his wife divorcing, and it reminded me of a matchmaking client I had who had sent me his picture. If you've never worked with a matchmaker, you may not know this, but some matchmakers allow their clients to send them pictures to illustrate the men and women they want to date. Hugh Jackman. She sent me photographs of Hugh Jackman. I realized at that point that these other matchmakers were crazy, the ones who trained me. I made it a rule that my clients from that point on could only send me photos of people they'd actually dated. Lots of times I was also getting pictures of people on the apps that my client wasn't actually dating. These were just people they were attracted to, kind of like a wish list. I know exactly what I said to that client because I've said it dozens of times since. I asked her this. I said, when you're standing in line at the grocery store every week, do you see men that look like Hugh Jackman? And she said, no. I said, yeah, me neither. So she was and is a very bright woman, and I didn't have to say anything further. I'd made my point. And if you didn't quite pick up on it because you're not in the right headspace right now, it's because Hugh Jackman is a unicorn. He's a freak of nature in the same way that, I don't know, Scarlett Johansson, Megan Fox. Insert your fantasy gal's name right here if you're a guy. And this is how we find ourselves in a conversation about settling. Not settling for Hugh Jackman. That's not that. But the fact that I don't want you to settle at all. Let me explain more. So I told someone I was sharing the story with that if she met Hugh Jackman and they were married somehow, since he was still married at the time, at some point in her marriage to Hugh, she would just be super annoyed by the fact that she'd asked him 3 times to take out the garbage cans from the kitchen and take them out to the garbage bins out in the garage. And at some point, he would just be Hugh who doesn't take out the garbage when you ask him after years together. And maybe that's what happened with Hugh and his wife. I feel like that was such a great ending to my story. I should end the episode right now. But I'm going to keep going and continue on because I have a couple other points to make. Settling for the super cute guy or gal at the pub is not only your best option, but it's likely your option for passing on your genes. If you're holding out hope and refusing to settle for her because she doesn't look like Sofia Vergara or Margot Robbie, you're choosing to sabotage finding romantic love in your life. Last week, I did an episode on the high-value man, another unicorn, and the slightly less popular but equally offensive term high-value woman. If you haven't seen it, I'll link to it at the end of this episode. It's annoying. High value is a rating scale some people use to describe a partner they desire to have, or even the way some misguided souls might even describe themselves. The story behind creating that episode was a fella telling me that he really needed to date a high-value woman, and also he wanted me to be his matchmaker. So for those of you who questioned whether I was aware that the term was also used to refer to women, of course, I did actually mention it briefly in the episode. So anyway, this guy is telling me what he wants in a partner, starting in the very first email he sent me. He scheduled a free 20-minute kind of get acquainted chat and started with this must-have list in the body of this email that accompanied that appointment. In all fairness, I ask if there's anything people want to share prior to our first conversation that could, save us some time and give me some context to our conversation. But during our 20-minute call, we just kept butting heads because I kept trying to redirect the conversation. I kept asking questions about who he was, and he kept describing who he wanted. Yeah, I've had hot girls, he told me. Yeah, I said, but have these hot women wanted to date you? I just can't bring myself to use the word girl when we're talking about women of dating age. So I said, have you dated any of them long term? Did these women choose to invest in a relationship with you? Or was this a short-term choice for them? Was this a multi-date situation or just a one-off situation? The fact that I'm using it as an example, you've guessed probably that he was getting dates on the dating apps with women that he thought were super attractive, but he wasn't getting second dates. To me, this was the equivalent of showing me pictures of Hugh Jackman. Fantasy is fun, but it's really just not helpful when you're really, truly, honestly looking for a partner. I think maybe this episode is the counterpoint to, no, it's the, not counterpoint, it's the companion piece to the High Value Man episode and the High Value Woman conversation. I want you to understand that partnership with people that are not of our fantasy life may seem like settling, but it's not at all a negative or bad thing. It's about finding a relationship that's based in reality and developing something that's mutual. Not only am I trying to save people from buying into internet ideals that will lead them to disappointment and probably loneliness, but saving them, hopefully, by asking them to consider what's truly of value to them now and in the long term. It's not settling to ignore cultural ideas and choose someone real and available. And this raises a couple of questions. First, what should be the criteria if I'm not just picking the hottest person in the room? And I think the answers will come to you with a little inner work, a little self-reflection, and talk to lots of people, date lots of people, and ask yourself the question, is this a match? Think like a matchmaker. You know, maybe some of you do, a lot of you know that I'm working on a program to help you do just that. But even before you become an expert at being your own matchmaker, just take a moment and think like what you think a matchmaker thinks like. So as a matchmaker yourself, you know that you're looking for love, right? That's the first question you ask yourself. What type of a relationship am I really hoping to find? If the answer was a long-term, committed partner, to somebody to share your life with, you must also know what is reasonable and what is unreasonable in that scenario. Maybe it would be helpful to picture yourself and your future partner 15 years down the line and what your life would look like at that point. What each of you might look like if appearance is something you keep getting hung up on. Asking yourself some hard questions, you'll probably come to understand that your goal is to not only find somebody who you are attracted to, but somebody who is also able to fall in love with you. And I want to point out that in that vision of yourself and your partner 15 years in the future, not one of your friends was at all interested or impressed by how smoking hot your partner was. And I have some other news for you. This picking a partner, choosing a mate stuff is hardwired in our brains. Nobody is overcoming centuries of conditioning to make exceptions for you and me because we're spectacular humans. I mean, we are, but we're programmed to partner with people who are very, very similar to us in many, many ways. Ethnicity, socioeconomic backgrounds, religious beliefs, level of education, and yeah, looks. We partner with people who are just about as good looking as we are. Why self-sabotage by making this process harder than it has to be? Why go against nature rather than embracing it and using it to your advantage? You deserve a person who will treasure you and make you feel secure so that you can build and share a happy life together. We all do, if that's what we're looking for. Not getting your fantasy person is not really settling at all. It's just being reasonable, living in our current reality, and choosing a match wisely. As a real-life matchmaker, I can assure you there are people who'd be thrilled to date you, people who'd be vested in your happiness, people who would prioritize you and your relationship every day. And you would be attracted to these guys and gals. Because I'm not saying, I'd never say that you should settle for somebody that you're not attracted to. That's ridiculous. But at some point, you have to step back and ask yourself if Hugh Jackman would want to marry you. Maybe you could ask him. I heard he's single. All right, here's that episode I thought you might enjoy. Click on that next if you have a couple more minutes to spend here on YouTube. I hope you found that interesting and or helpful. If you did, please join Mom in giving the episode a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel before you leave. I'll look forward to seeing you back here soon. And until next time, thank you and have a good one. Oh, here's Frank. Come here, Frank.